Police are going to want answers. They're going to want to know why you pulled that trigger. Why did you do what you did?
So you trying to tell me for the cost of a drink in a nightclub, I can get legal coverage that will protect me, my assets, and my family if I ever found myself in a defensive gun use?
What's up, everybody? This is Devery Woodfork with All Out Tactical, and I'm your host for today, and this is my co-host,
Wayne Brown with Fight Back Firearms Training, and this is We Stay Ready Podcast.
Episode number 3. What we're going to talk about today is the importance of having legal defense for self-defense. A lot of folks don't even know that such thing even exists.
Bro, I've been waiting for a while to have this conversation. I've been waiting for me and you to sit down and talk about what transpired the day when you had to rely on your training and in the end use your legal defense when the situation happened with you and your family.
Man, I'll tell you straight up like this. I signed up for the company that I signed up with 2 weeks before that situation happened, not knowing that this was going to happen to me and my family. And that company is U.S. Law Shield. They got many other companies out there that do what they do, that provide this same service. But the company I was with that day is U.S. Law Shield, and I'm still a member of U.S. Law Shield. They provided me prior to that day with a great deal of information and education relating to what to do as far as how to handle a situation after a shootout or a self-defense situation occurred.
So let's just start from the beginning. I want to know everything that transpired that day that led you to where you had to use U.S. Law Shield to help you through a defensive gun use. So let's give me 1 second. What I want to do is I want to know the what, when, why, and wheres of what happened that day. So that day, I want you to describe to me what happened from the start of that day and got you to where you found yourself having to discharge your weapon to protect you and your family.
So like today, to some folks, normal day, just maybe with your family, maybe with your friends, whomever. But that day, I was with my family. I own a remodeling and construction company, and I had one of them big white Chevy Express vans. It was a 2-seater, and it had a cage in the middle of it.
Mm-hmm.
So only 2 people can fit in there, but I chose to take that van with me that day because we were actually on our way to a tile store to purchase some tile to install inside our own home.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, I told my wife we were going to go out to eat and just celebrate being able to do that. We were on our way to one store. While we were on our way to that store, we saw another store and decided, hey, we're going to just stop over there real quick. We stopped over there, and as I was exiting the van, there's a little hook on my keys. The little hook, just this little hook right here.
Mm-hmm.
I normally hook this hook right onto my belt loop of my pants, and I was getting out of that van, hooking this hook onto the belt loop of my pants, getting ready to help my wife get the kids out the car. And while doing that, I hear somebody say, hey, motherfucker, give me your keys. And I look up, and when I look up, I'm staring down the barrel of a Glock. Instantly, I noticed it was a Glock. It's weird how your mind works when it comes to stuff like this. You just, you see something and you're like, oh, that's a Glock, or that's this, or it's a red shirt, or it's this and it's that, right? So I was staring down the barrel of a Glock, and I saw a 30-round magazine. A 30-round magazine. And that's all I could see was that 30-round magazine. So while I'm staring down the barrel of that Glock, looking at that 30-round magazine, my brain just registered. Oh shit, I gotta hurry up and do something. I think our last podcast we talked about muscle memory. That muscle memory kicked in. So I drew my gun immediately and I got in the fight. While he was already shooting at me, demanding my keys. Before you know it, we end up in a gunfight. My first shot went off. I end up hitting this guy in the leg. Just to let y'all know, and I always say this, I'm not a fan of Joe Biden's bullcrap, shoot him in the leg, because obviously that don't work.
No, it don't.
Obviously that don't work. Shooting him in the leg just don't work. Because that guy didn't go down. So I end up discharging my first shot from my firearm. He didn't go down, but he proceeded to run around the back of my van and ended up on the passenger side of my van where my entire family was. My entire family. And he's shooting all of those 30 rounds. Meanwhile, I'm shuffling from the front to the van to the back of the van. Front to the van, back of the van. Trying my best to neutralize the threat. My backstop that day was, if anybody has ever been to Houston, 5:30 p.m., broad daylight, it's traffic time. It's straight up traffic time. And I'm having to shoot towards the freeway during traffic time. So I'm shooting at him. He's shooting at me. And the whole time it's like boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. Nothing but gunshots going off the whole entire time. And his 30 shots compared to the amount of shots I shot was only 4. 4 shots. I think about 4 or 5 shots. Which out of that 4 or 5, 2 hit them, and I still beat myself up over where them other ones went. And the second shot that hit him ended up making him, get the hell away from there. He didn't go down immediately because prior to now, I was one of them people that thought, hey, if you shoot somebody, they going down. That didn't work.
That only works in a movie.
Hollywood.
That's only something that works in a movie. Now, people will see someone get shot once or twice in a movie and they drop.
Mm-hmm.
That's not real life. In real life, if someone's adrenaline is up and the dopamine in their brain is pumping and the adrenaline is pumping, they can walk through those rounds. So you have to put rounds in a specific place for those people to fall. Mm-hmm. So when it comes down to it, that guy, he took those 2 rounds and he was still able to do what it took to get away from you and to be able to get into the car with his getaway driver after you had shot him twice because his adrenaline was up. Mm-hmm. But let's go back to something else. What made you pick where you went that day? What made you decide this is where I'm going? Because you've told me before, this guy has waited for 2 hours and was seen on camera for 2 hours casing, looking for a victim to strike on. So what was your choice of places to go to? Instead of going to a big box store, you went to a mom and pop store that day?
Yeah, this might sound a little weird. This may sound like I'm trying to blame my wife, but that's not the case. They say happy wife, happy life, right?
Oh yeah. do you know mad wife brings a bad life?
Yeah, I know about that one too. So that day we were actually on our way somewhere else, but my wife saw that store and was like, "Hey, baby, there's another store right there. Let's go ahead and see what they got." So immediately I was like, nah. In my mind, the back of my mind, I'm like, nah, I don't like to change my plans. Anybody that know me know that I do not like to change my plans if I already said plans, right? So going back to the happy wife, happy life thing, I was like, well, I don't want to make wife mad by saying no. So let me go ahead and pull over, make a U-turn, and go to this store. So that's what I did. I pulled over, made a U-turn, went to that store, and wasn't paying attention. Had no situational awareness at all. I had no situational awareness. And I pulled up at that store. That guy started shooting at us, ran up on me, trying to rob me from my van while my wife and kids is inside of it. Literally shooting at me while he's demanding my keys. Literally shooting at me. So during it all, once we end up into the whole shootout, and once I end up shooting him twice, and he end up just fleeing away to wherever he ran away to, which was a Papa John's somewhere near around the corner. We tried to back up and leave and go to a safe place to where I can call the police. Man, I ain't gonna lie, I was scared to call the police that day, And I'm gonna just tell you why. You wanna know why? Go ahead. You finna say something?
I got a question for you about that.
What's that?
What was your family doing while all these rounds was flying? What was your wife doing? Because she had to be worried about her husband. You had to be worried about your family. And like we say, there are 3 things that the human body does in a situation like this. It's either freeze, fight, or flight. So you were, I'm getting ready to fight. I'm not finna let him hurt me, and I'm damn sure not finna let him hurt my family. So at that point in time, you were in full fight mode because you wanted to make sure that you got them home safely. So what was your family doing in that time when all this was happening?
Man, they had no choice but to sit right there. Because like I say, that was a 2-seater. My wife was holding my oldest son in her lap. My youngest son was sitting down in the middle of that van in his car seat. Probably wasn't the right thing to do as far as legal wise, you know what I'm saying? But I had to do what I had to do because the van only had 2 seats. They had no choice but to, while we were shooting at each other, they were just sitting there looking at the entire thing. Can you imagine, just you in a shootout, your wife and kids don't have no other option. There is no get down on the floor. There is no concealment, no cover. There is none of that. They have to look at and witness being shot at, maybe almost being murdered, and just watch it all.
Your wife was looking at the breadwinner of the family protecting them, and he was ready to die for whatever it took to protect his family. Your wife was watching you put your life on the line for them. And for them, you were like, I don't care what happened to me. I'm going to do whatever it takes to get them home.
And that's exactly what was going through my mind. Like the last podcast said, well, like you said in the last episode of the podcast, either 1 out of 3 things are going to happen when a situation like this happens to somebody. You either going to fight, flight, or freeze. And that day, I chose to fight. But I had the confidence in knowing that I was also protected when I had to protect me and my family. And what I mean by that is I knew I had just signed up for U.S. Law Shield. I had my legal defense for self-defense. And I was already learning and educating myself on how to properly deal with a situation like that. Because I'm going to tell you, before signing up with U.S. Law Shield, man, I don't know about you, but coming from where I come from and from where most of us come from as African Americans in this country or around the world, hey, if a shootout happened, we taught to just trained and conditioned to just run.
Exactly.
I ain't calling no police because if I call the police, I might go to jail.
Yes.
Even if I'm just defending myself, I might go to jail if I call the police. So I was kind of scared to call the police, but I had to because there were other people that called them too.
Okay. I have another question for you. How did the police treat you when they arrived to the scene of the crime? What were the things that they said once they got to the scene of the crime? How did they treat you as an African American gun owner with a concealed carry license?
So the first thing that the police saw when they came to the scene of the crime was my tattoos. The very first thing they saw was my tattoos. Well, probably saw the color of my skin too. We just gonna go ahead and go there, right?
Hey, man.
They just probably saw that too. I'm pretty sure they did. Some people say, "Well, I'm colorblind."
It ain't like they can miss the color of your skin. Excuse me.
I don't know what colorblind means. Anyway, that's a whole another episode. But the first question they asked me was, "What gang is it? What gang are you in?" And I was kind of surprised. I'm like, "Whoa, what do you mean? What gang am I in?" I'm not in any gang, sir. Since it's not a gang, it must have been road rage. You must have known this guy. You must have saw him before. You must have shot him a finger on the freeway and he followed you over to this place and decided he gonna try to do this to you. That's how they treated me.
So once you showed them that, or once you told them, I'm not in a gang, I'm not affiliated with anything. I'm just a family man. I got my kids in the car. I got my wife in the car. I'm just trying to protect myself in the situation where I got a guy who just came up and started shooting at me. What was their response?
They still kind of, they really didn't care. You want to know what made them back down a little bit off me?
Why?
Seeing that I was on the phone with my lawyer. When they saw that I was on the phone with my lawyer, they completely backed off.
Did you even describe to them or tell them what was going on, or did you talk to your attorney first to make sure that everything that you said wasn't turned around and flipped around, that they didn't turn your words against you?
I did just that. I talked to my attorney first and let her know what was going on, and the way I explained it to her with the way that I was educated prior to something like that happening, I let her know in the exact words that, hey, I've just been a victim of a crime. This is what happened. And the same thing that I told her was the same exact thing that I told the cops. And when the cops got there, they really wasn't trying to hear that. They, like I say, they were like, well, it must have been a gang. What gang is it? What was it? Road rage, X, Y, and Z. But when they seen I had a lawyer, they started backing off. They even went as far to say, well, why do you got a lawyer? What, only bad guys have lawyers. Only people who did something wrong have lawyers. And at that point, I was really done. I was like, hey, I'm on the phone with her. She's on the way here. And still to this day, me and that lawyer, she's a great lady. She helps me out, with any and everything that I need. But once they saw that a lawyer was involved, they completely backed off of me the way that they were trying to be so aggressive at first.
That shows the ignorance of people sometimes. I'm not going to say law enforcement. It's people, period. For someone to say that for you to have a lawyer, only bad guys have lawyers, no. I prepared for a situation like this. If something like this happened, I was ready so that I can make sure I'm not spending $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 on legal defense to keep me out of prison and to bankrupt my family. I wanted to make sure that this little $25, $10, or $15 a month that I spend in legal defense covers me and blankets my family so that we're not going in bankruptcy behind me trying to protect myself, me trying to protect my family.
That's exactly what happens. So I've read many articles. I've seen many stories and situations to where somebody have had to defend themselves, but found themselves having to defend themselves from the judicial system. It's a sad thing to be a victim of a crime, but it's also a sadder thing to be a victim of a crime and then be a victim of the judicial system, because now they want to know and ask questions as to why you defended yourself the way you did.
When the police pulled up, when the 911 call was made, did you describe or did anyone describe what you had on? Did they describe you as a male, black male, and that you were a target by the other guy? Did they describe who was the good guy and who was the bad guy? Did they describe who was the one that came across shooting? Did they describe anything? Because the police could have came in hot, and then you would have been the one that they came in hot with their guns drawn to shoot at.
Well, I tell you this. After the dust settled and everything just kind of calmed down, after there wasn't no more gunshots and all that, there were witnesses. And even I remember one of the witnesses, you know what he said to me? Man, one of your bullets hit my building and almost hit this guy. You know, he like accused me. Mm-hmm. So I'm pretty sure most people probably say, hey man, this black guy out there shooting. You know, maybe or maybe not. But I can just tell by the energy and the way the cops responded that they were kind of looking at me like I done something wrong. Like just because the color of my skin, just because I had a gun, that I had done something wrong, when that simply was not the case. I'm glad that there was video footage. I'm glad that I had a lawyer. I'm glad that I had legal defense for self-defense and was educated on how to properly deal and handle a situation like that. Because if I had not had that, man, I really don't know what would have happened. It's all over YouTube.
I have one question.
Mm-hmm.
Moving forward, if we can go back to that day, 2 years ago, you've just had your anniversary of 2 years of your shootout. If we can go back to that day, what would you do different? And what changes in your program would you make? And what changes in your program would you keep?
I would definitely pay a whole lot more attention to my surroundings. Definitely, because if I would have been paying attention to my surroundings when I exited the freeway and had to make that U-turn, when I came down that side street and had to pass and drive right past the guy that was finna attempt to murder and rob me and my entire family, I would have probably saw that. Ain't no probably. I would have saw that guy. I would have saw him. Because for those of you that have seen the video, you see about 10 to 15 seconds he had to just run up on me. And while I was sitting in that van, talking to my wife, talking to my kids, if I would have just turned my head to the left one good time, I would have been able to say like, oh man, this guy running up on me. He got a gun in his hand. What is he about to do? So that's the main thing I would have done, is paid attention. I also would not have changed my plans and just deterred and went to that place, because I probably could have avoided it altogether. But who knows if it also could have happened at the other place. There were other things as far as tactical strategies during their whole entire shootout that I probably, or not probably, that I know I would have done different, you know, to change the results of the situation. But that comes with training.
Mm-hmm. So basically what you're saying is you would have had more situational awareness.
Mm-hmm.
You would have trained a little bit more. And the last thing that I'm getting is you would make sure you have legal defense so that when the police do get there, you are prepared to deal with them also, in case you do have to take that ride to a police station to give your side of the story.
Yeah. You know, as an instructor, I advocate all the time for legal defense, for self-defense. A lot of times I hear stupid stuff like, oh, I don't need that. I'll just bury him in the backyard. Matter of fact, some people, most people, I would say maybe 80% of people, that's a big percentage, think that just because it's a self-defense situation and in their eyes it's a clear-cut self-defense situation, that they're good. They're going to be exempt from the judicial system.
No.
It's not the case. You know, police are going to want answers. They're going to want to know why you pulled that trigger. Why did you do what you did? Even if it was just a self-defense situation, they're going to want to know that. You know, and you're going to have to answer questions. You know, they call it due process. Not everybody get due process, though. That's a whole nother topic.
Hey, they say that you are innocent until proven guilty.
That's bullshit.
Well, I ain't want to say guilty till proven innocent.
But I'm here to tell you, I felt like I was treated like I was guilty until proven innocent. Because that's how it is. You know, you pretty much done it until they know that you didn't do it.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
So that's a lie.
Yeah.
That's a lie.
Well, sir, I just want to say I am proud of what you did to protect your family. I'm proud to see a man stand up and do what it takes to, you were like, either I'm dying here or he dying here. One of the two. And I'm going to make sure that they get home safe. And that's all that matters to me. And as long as I protect them, I'm going to do whatever it takes to neutralize that threat. I'm proud to have you as a friend and a brother. And I'm proud to also be your co-host. And moving forward, I just want you to know one thing, that a lot of people can learn a lot from a person like you, because a lot of people don't see that there's a lot of things going on in these streets today. Mm-hmm. And with the crime rate raising the way that it is, and it is just getting astronomical, people think that just owning a firearm is just enough, and it's not. You need to have a plan. You need to have training. You need to be prepared for when shit break loose. And if you're not prepared when shit break loose, it could be bad for you.
You know, we talking at that time, and still to this day, man, I'm only paying about $15 a month for my legal defense for self-defense. $15 a month will get you covered. Just in case you ever have to defend yourself in any shape, form, or fashion, whether it be with a firearm, whether it be with a knife, whether it be with your fist, whether it be, I heard a story, a lady say she was coming out the grocery store and she was getting mugged coming out the grocery store, and she had bought some tuna fish.
She had tuna fish.
She had cans of tuna fish in the bag, and she threw it at the guy and bust him across the head with it. Hey, you got to do what you got to do. But for $13 a month, I had coverage.
Yes.
And depending on what add-ons you choose with U.S. Law Shield, because you don't necessarily need all the add-ons. That's the cool thing I like about it. They got something called multi-state protection, which means if you travel, you can be covered in pretty much multiple states.
It's like reciprocity.
There you go. They have gun owner identity theft. Mm-hmm. To where if somebody steal your gun and go use that gun in the crime, they will assist you there. You know, they do something called write a not me letter to the state and assist you with saying it was basically not you that committed that crime with that firearm. My favorite thing that they got is bail bond and expert witness protection. And we talking for an extra $295. Bail bond and expert witness protection. The base fee for the just simple coverage is only like $10 or $11, $10.95. All right, but you add that bail bond and expert witness protection, which is the only thing I got added on my package, because I'm really not too concerned about people stealing my guns, but that's me. Think they provide you with $5,000 which is $50,000. It's $50,000, but 10% of $50,000 is $5,000, and they use that $5,000 to come bail you out of jail if you do end up in handcuffs and end up in jail behind a self-defense situation.
So you trying to tell me for the cost of a drink in a nightclub, I can get legal coverage that will protect me, my assets, and my family if I ever found myself in a defensive gun use?
It's either you do that or you end up having to sell your house. You end up having to sell your car, the dog, the cat, the wife, everything. I'm just being fun. But seriously, you end up
I don't know if you can sell your wife. I ain't never tried to sell mine, but I don't know if you can sell your wife. But you can sell a cat. I don't know about that either.
But the thing is, for a small fee a month, and you can just pay it up for the whole year if you don't want to have money coming out your account every month.
Yeah.
You got legal protection. Now, let me just say this. Just because you got that don't mean that you can go out and do some reckless bullcrap.
Exactly.
And think that because you went out and did some reckless bullcrap that they going to come save you.
Exactly.
Because that's just not the case. They'll provide you with a lawyer, which is what they do. You know, there are other companies out there, but with U.S. Law Shield, man, I call them all the time and ask them just random questions. Just, hey, what happens if I do this? What happens in this scenario? What happens in that scenario? And I actually get to talk to a lawyer. But from what I understand, some other companies, I won't say their names, but some other companies, you don't get to talk directly to a lawyer.
I was affiliated with one of those other companies, and I did not get a lawyer. I got representatives. I got put on hold, and now I'm moving on to U.S. Law Shield. So
I highly recommend it. If you're not a member of U.S. Law Shield, and if you don't have some type of legal defense for self-defense, and you're carrying a gun and thinking that just because you got that gun is all good and you're protected, man, I'm here to tell you got it sadly mistaken. You're looking at somebody that lived through it. You know, a lot of people wonder, man, how was you able to defend you and your family and you still walking around here free today? You ain't end up in, bro, I didn't end up in handcuffs. They actually tried to take my gun. When I say they, the cops, HPD tried to take my firearm from me. But my lawyer advised me and let me know that, hey, you don't have to surrender your firearm.
So you didn't have to give them the gun either?
Man, they gave it back to me at the scene of the crime. Which is rare, I hear.
That is very rare. I'm surprised they didn't try to keep it for evidence.
Nah, I still got it. Glock 22, 40 caliber, that's my baby.
Last question that I have.
Talk to me.
The guy who shot at you with that extended magazine, where is he today?
Oh, man. From what I understand, he's still roaming around Houston streets. Because our DA, district attorney, are saying that they don't have sufficient enough evidence to pursue charges.
But you got a whole video of you shooting him and him shooting at you first.
They got video. They got shell casings. They have witnesses. They have my van with bullet holes in it. They have my testimony. What else do they need?
This goes to show you that the system is broken. This goes to show you that even with video, they have not persecuted the man that tried to take your life. So when it comes down to it, you had to be your own first responder. Because if you did not have that gun on you that day, you, your wife, and your 2 kids that were in the car all could have been killed.
You know, when you say, whenever I hear that phrase that we have to be our own first responder, I think about a good sister of mine, Stephanie Marie, with Family Tires Firearms Training. And that's her whole thing, is we have to be our own first responders. Shouts out to Stephanie Marie. Keep doing your thing. I love what you're doing. Because what she says, and she says that all the time. When I first met her, that was her thing, and that still is her thing. We have to be our own first responders. We'll deal with the aftermath after the fact.
Exactly. I'd rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6.
Yep.
And on that note, I think we should close this out. Bro, I'm still glad you're here. You did a good job that day. You protected what was meant. That was the most important thing to you.
Mm-hmm.
You made sure you made it home. And that's what matters the most.
Yep. So, once again, this is We Stay Ready podcast, 2A podcast. We got to let y'all know this is a 2A podcast. And for those of you that carry your gun or may not carry a gun, I highly suggest that you get your legal defense for self-defense. The company that I trust, that I'm still a member of, is U.S. Law Shield. What we're going to do for y'all is hook y'all up. We're going to drop the link in the description below so you can get your U.S. Law Shield membership, and you don't have to be worrying about who's going to protect you if you got to protect yourself. Now, I'm not saying it's guaranteed that, I'm not saying it's a guaranteed outcome of what's going to happen. Because based on what you say to the police, and you shouldn't say a damn thing to them, based off what you say to the police or how the whole situation may have transpired, will depend on the outcome. But it's always best to have your legal representation versus having none. We talking about maybe a couple $100 a year versus 2, 3, 4, 5,000 or 10,000 just for a retainer if you don't. So once again, I'm Deverick Woodfork with All Out Tactical Firearms Training and Education.
And I'm Wayne Brown with Fight Back Firearms Training. And this is We Stay Ready Podcast.
Episode number 3, and the importance of having legal defense for self-defense.